from you. Me too, Zenobia. All right, so today, I guess before I start, I'm supposed to do like my intro of who I am. This is the part I hate taking care of, so I'm just going to give it to you real quick. I've been in the industry for 21 years, in the hair industry for 21 years. I've been a teacher, mentor, coach within the industry almost since day one. I had an opportunity to be an apprentice as my first step, and during my apprenticeship, I get to go out and teach classes with the guy that was the owner of the salon. So teaching and mentoring and coaching has been a part of my life pretty much since day one of the salon industry. About 10 years ago, I became a professional coach as well. So I've had kind of a side job as a professional coach. So that's where I'm coming to you from today. First things first, too, this is not my information. This is not Andrew's information. It's not even necessarily my perspective on things all the time. I have to give credit to the fact that everything that I'm sharing with you today is just things that I've taken from other people, from my mentors, from my teachers, from incredible books, writers, speakers, and I've condensed it down into something that I feel super passionate about. So today, I want to first give credit and gratitude towards my teachers, my mentors, because I couldn't be here without them. Second, I want to give a lot of gratitude to each one of you in this room, and there's so many of you on here. I wish I could see all of your beautiful faces on one screen, but every once in a while, I'm just going to page it back and forth so I can see your faces here. But I want to give huge gratitude to each and every one of you for spending some time with me this morning and just being open to having a different perception of what a conversation can be. So first, let's do this. Everyone, just take a nice deep breath in for yourself. Just let it out nice and slow. One more deep breath in, and then as you let it out twice as slow as you draw it in. Nice and deep, and let it out nice and slow. As you take those slow breaths out, you should start to feel yourself settle into your body. And this is where we're going to operate from. We're going to operate from the body's intelligence today. Because as owners, as mentors, as leaders, as coaches, as managers, we tend to be very up here, right? We tend to get very up in our head. And so it's so important that we recognize that there is so much intelligence within our body. And so a lot of what we're going to talk about today is tapping into this deep intelligence that we have, especially within the heart and also within the gut. So that's going to be a big focus. I'm going to ask you guys just to check and make sure you're on mute too, please. So on a scale of 1 to 5, I'm going to have you type into the chat on a scale of 1 to 5, meaning 1, not so great, 5, I feel pretty damn good about this. How are you with having great, authentic conversations? How are you about having great, authentic conversations? 1 is, I need some work. 5 is, I'm fantastic at it. I'm great at it. Great. We've got some 3s, 4s, 5s, 2s, 3s, 3.5. Okay, I like that. Little negotiation room there. Beautiful. So I want you to connect and just recognize where you're at on that scale. And even if you say you're a 5, today I want you to set an intention of taking that 5 to a 6. If you're a 2, we want to take you to a 3, because I think it's so important that we have realistic expectations of progress. Sometimes we get into this mindset that we have to change everything, that we have to become this thing that we're not. And those of you that said you're a 2, there's a reason that you're a 2. It's not that you're a bad communicator. It's that you haven't found your way to communicate yet. So that's a big part of what we're going to do today, is we're going to get into some communication skill, actual processes, some things that I think will help you a bunch. But then also, I'm hoping we'll have enough time that we can go through and we can actually have kind of a coaching session with one of you on a tough conversation that you're going to have soon. Because what I want to do is I want to give you kind of a formula that you can actually plug a tough conversation into, so you have some kind of structure. Because raise your hand if you get that little bit of emotional tightness when the tough conversations come up. Yeah, probably most of us, right? So I know that feeling very well, and so we want to give you a structure to that. So the first thing is we have to understand who we are when we show up to a conversation, because whether you like it or not, you show up as something, as someone within a conversation. So we need to understand who we show up as, especially what is the perception of the rest of the world to who we show up as. So we're going to do a little project together. So if you feel that you are pretty fast, if you feel like you are pretty fast and reactive in conversations, like as soon as the conversation happens, you're quick and you're reactive to that conversation, I want you to put a fist in the air or a hand in the air. If you feel like you're pretty quick, yeah? All right. If you feel that you're on the other end of the spectrum, when you're in a conversation, you're kind of that person, you're like, I need some time to think this over, a little bit of processing, give me some space here, put a hand in the air. Okay, so just take notice to which one you initially responded to, and just kind of trust that. Don't overanalyze it, just kind of trust. If you first put up your hand because you're like, oh yeah, I'm pretty reactive, I'm pretty quick, I move fast in conversations, that's great. If you're like, no, I'm kind of that person needs to slow things down a little bit, need time and space to think, just stay with that. If in conversations, you feel like you focus more on people and how they feel, put a hand up. If you feel like you focus more on people and how they feel, put a hand up. And maybe it's not even necessarily specifically how they feel, but even the connection and relationship with people, that's where you're going to be. If you feel like you're a person that has more of a concern with information, facts, content, raise a hand. Okay, good. Okay, so again, just take notice, your first kind of reaction. And by the way, yes, many of you are going to be some mix of all these different things, but just we're trying to figure out that initial who we show up as in a conversation. So if you feel like you're more about people, more about kind of how they feel, more about that personal connection, or maybe you're more kind of like, yeah, I love you and all, I also need facts, information. I need to know what's going on here. You're over here. So this is a structure called the DISC profile. So we're going to talk just pretty quick through DISC, but it's an important thing. And if you want more information, all you have to do is type in DISC into a Google search. You will find tons of information about the DISC profile. You can take the DISC profile online. There's different versions of it. Tony Robbins actually has a free version of it on his website. I don't think it's as good as the paid version, but it's good. So you can always check that out. But basically the way that this looks is that you're predominantly in your communication, you're predominantly going to be in a certain category of how you communicate. And it goes like this: B, I, S, C. So now you can kind of see we have quadrants here. Can you guys read that okay? Yeah, okay. Thank you. So if you answered that you're pretty quick, you're pretty reactive, you like to kind of get into the conversation right away, you're going to be on this half of the spectrum initially, right? So you're either a D or an I. What decides if you're a D or an I is, are you more focused on facts, information, the content, or are you more concerned with the person, how they feel, the connection? That's going to take you to an I. So if you're fast, reactive, you're more information based, your primary might be a D. If you're fast, you're reactive, you're more people and connection based, you might just be a high I. If you responded that you're a little bit slower, you need more time to think, you need more time to process, then you're on this half of the spectrum. So if you're on this half, you're more about information, you're a big researcher especially, you might be a high C. If you're kind of slower, a little bit more thoughtful with your communication, but you're really focused on people and how they feel, you might be a high S. So how many of you found that you might be a high D so far? Just raise a paw. Okay, we got a couple. Keep them up because I'm going to page through here. Keep them up for me just for a second. Let me see how many I got here. Yeah, that's good. That's about the percentage that usually you find in salons, especially within leadership. If you found that you might be a high I as your primary, remember, you'll be a mix of things, but if you found that you might be a high I, raise a paw for me. Let's see. Yeah. This tends to be quite a big group within the salon industry because we're such a people industry that we tend to have a lot of high I's within the salon industry for sure. You do this in an accounting firm, you've got a lot of these. You do this in a salon leadership, you have a lot of these. How many of you found that you might be a high S? Okay, good. And especially because I'm talking to leaders here, we're not going to have tons of high S's because leadership can sometimes be a hard role for high S's. We'll talk about that. But guess what? I'm going to give you some ideas on how to leverage the fact that you're this person in how you work with your staff. How many of you found that you might be a high C? Yeah, Janelle's kind of like maybe, kind of, yeah. Keep them up, keep them up. Let me see. Yeah, there's usually not a ton of us in salons and especially within leadership. I am naturally a high C, especially when I got into managing, owning a salon. I had to work really hard to find more balance within my communication styles. And I see some heads bobbing for sure. So let's talk about these different letters and where we kind of sit within them, how to kind of balance them, but also what their strengths are. So high Ds, type in the chat, what do you think the strength of a high D is? Someone that's quite reactive, responsive, quick to communicate. They're really focused on facts, information, the content of the story. Let me know. Yeah, good. Amanda's saying a fast decision maker. Jill's saying action. Lexi, for sure, good on their feet. They're kind of quick movers. Like, okay, guys, let's get this shit done. Come on, let's not sit around. Let's go. Yeah, good, Megan. Direct, which is actually a lot of times what they see D stands for is direct. Quick thinkers, quick to respond, take action. Perfect. So you guys are right on task. So high Ds are great within leadership because they tend to be that activator, that person's like, okay, guys, let's make a decision here. Let's move forward. Yeah, perfect, Eric. Take ownership over something. They have no problem with being like, okay, no one's going to make a decision here. I'm going to take ownership. I'm going to jump in and be that leader to get us on track and to get us moving here. So yes, absolutely. Self-sufficient for sure, Stephanie. Yeah, very good. So what about eyes? What do you think the talent that strength that high I's might have. These are people that they're like the party planners. They're the like high energy person in the salon that they're like, okay, guys, come on, let's get together. I love you guys. Yeah, let's all get a group hug together. Energy, democratic, exciting, caring, connection, compassionate, motivating. Yes, for sure. Deep empathy, want community. Yes, Zenobia, for sure. Libras, possibly, yes. Very positive. They tend to be very uplifting. They're the ones that kind of bounce through the door in the morning with their Starbucks, like, hi guys, great to see everybody. Yay, let's have a great day. I don't know why they have to have a Mickey Mouse voice, but they typically do. Yeah, for sure, Eric. Pro staff, Chelsea, yes. Even if they're not a morning person, they will act like it. Beautiful. Are you guys also starting to identify your team members already? Yeah, for sure. All right, what about S's? What would an S be fantastic at? Oh my gosh, Lexi, yes, sunshine in human form. Tiffany, you might be high D and high I for sure. Listening, yes, Stephanie, yes, Lexi, listening. They could be great coaches, deeply, deeply patient. They are here to make space for other people to be present. Supportive, great listeners, patience, thorough. Yeah. So these are the people that often they just want to sit and be present with you. They're like the little Buddha on the mountain, right? They're just like, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I hear you. I'm there with you. So high S's are great to have within a group. They tend to be, they can often be that glue that helps to stick things together. Because when everything's kind of chaotic, they're the person between the people. Like, yeah, I hear you, and I also hear you. And so they can really be a nice glue for the salon. What about C's? What is the talent of a C? So these are people that are kind of slower to respond. They need time to kind of process, but they're mainly more focused on the informations. Give me the facts. Let's get the content here. Yeah, Shelby, very reliable. Chelsea, very conscientious. Yeah, Nicole, they're going to be that person that wants to do the research. They're like, yeah, give me the project. Like, I'd love to do some research on new communication styles, new ways to have a great meeting. Megan, yes, they can be very cautious. So they're not going to be the person that just kind of jumps to conclusions. They're going to sit back and they're going to say, you know, okay, I hear everything that everyone's saying. I need to now take a step back. I'm going to withdraw into my little nerd room. I'm going to do some research on this thing. And I'm going to come back to you later with a very mindful, very precise kind of answer to things. Yeah, good, Phil. If they know how to respond to problems because they think it out. They are not typically reactive people. They're more that, yeah. There's sometimes the person that almost gets blamed for not being present within a conversation, because as soon as you start to speak, they're already starting to process. They're starting to kind of put the blocks in place. Great. So now let's also think about some of the challenges that could come up for these people. For a high D, think about that high D personality. Very often they can kind of come across as cold. They can come across as demanding. They can come across as not being a good listener because they're just like, okay, come on, let's make a decision here. Come on, let's figure this out. Eyes can kind of, they can almost get the, what's the word? Kind of flighty. Like, they cannot be taken seriously because they are such cheerleaders. They're so happy and they're so positive and they're so uplifting and like they're kind of the party person that they cannot be taken seriously sometimes. So a lot of times in a meeting, The D is leading the meeting. They're doing a lot of the talking. The I is trying to chime in, and they're like, yeah, that's sweet that you think that way. You know, that's so nice of you to feel that way, you know. Meanwhile, the S, you guys know what the S's challenge is. They're probably never heard because they're so busy making sure that everyone else has been heard that they're not making space, they're not creating space for themselves to be heard. So very often, the S kind of comes away from a meeting, some kind of conversation. They're going to possibly feel good that they contributed in the way that they contributed a space for people to be heard, but they're not going to feel good that they were heard personally. And then, of course, the C, analysis paralysis. That is the biggest challenge for a C kind of communication, is it's really hard to make a decision and kind of come through and actually say, okay, here's what I've come to. Because the C would almost rather just continually process and process and process over time. So if this isn't making sense, put two hands in the air and just say, yes, this is making sense. Great, fantastic. So what's really essential, first, we need to identify where we show up within this. I think it's great to go on and take the actual test. Like I said, you can go to Tony Robbins' website. I think it's just tonyrobbins.com and look up DISC profile. It's a free profile. It'll be good enough to kind of give you a general perception of where you technically fit. Sometimes I almost prefer for you to look at this from your intuition, because what's really important about this is not necessarily accurately exactly who you are. It's how you perceive yourself. It's how the world around you perceives you. That's why I keep using this term of how you show up in the conversation. Because very often what we find is that people will get their DISC report back and they'll say, huh, wow, this doesn't seem very right. The more they read into the report, they very often are like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Within the DISC report, you'll get two different reports. You'll get one that is your natural style, and the second one that's your adaptive style. Your natural style is what you were born with. This is probably what you're, like if you, excuse me, if you went to your mom and you said, Mom, where do you feel like I fit within this profile? Your mom would probably say, oh, well, as a child, you were ... So that was your natural style. That was the way that your brain developed from the time you were born. Your adaptive style is the style that you often show up with because we've been told we have to adapt our style. So if you were a high I in school, if you were the bubbly, outgoing, I love everyone person, when you came into the classroom, what was the first thing the teacher probably told you to do? Shh, keep it down. You're too much. You're too much energy. People can't handle how much energy you have, right? And so that high I started to adapt. They started to say, oh, okay, for people to love me, I need to be quieter. I need to be less in their face. I need to be less communicative. For the high D, same kind of thing, but in a different direction. Like, whoa, dude, you are way too much. You are just like so in people's faces. You're so like demanding. You're so abrupt. You're so harsh. All these judgments. And so the D is kind of like, gosh, like, okay, well, I guess I need to be more touchy-feely then, and I'm going to try to be. And kind of same thing for C's. C's can, they were told like, hey, you think too much, get out of your head. You analyze things too much. And so Megan said, hitting home, Andrew. Great. So you see the point here is that we have a natural style that instead of being told, here's how you work from your natural style, here's how you use it as an asset to who you are, and here's how you manage the challenges that come along with the style, you were taught that you should try to be something else. Think about this. This is the way that school has taught us from day one. Oh, you got a D on your math test, but you got an A in art, you got an A in music. What were we told we were supposed to do? Well, you got to put aside your music and you got to put aside that art that you do all the time, all that beautiful art that you create. You got to put that stuff to the side. Focus all your intent and energy on becoming better at math. Well, trying to become something that we are not, that requires so much energy. And not just this kind of like physical energy, but it's heart energy. Like it's hard on the heart, isn't it? Like those of you that have been told that you're too much, that you're ... it kind of hurts the heart, doesn't it? Because in your heart, you're like, I'm just showing up as who I am. I love you. And you telling me that I can't be as loving to you, that hurts. Like that aches. So we need to show up as our true self. Within this profile, find what is true to you. We talked about what your assets are. Become that asset. So if you are a high D, stop trying to be the high S in your salon. It's not your position. Find the high S within your salon, within your group, and put them into the position that the high S really works from. So we were talking earlier, and I said, to those of you that are the high S, especially within a leadership group, it can be a challenging position because your natural position as a high S is to not be in front of the room as the party planner. And that's often what we think that person has to be. When we get labeled as a leader, we have this perception. We think of someone like Jason Everett, right? He is a great energetic leader. Well, know that by you having the ability to personally and deeply connect on an individual level, that makes you just as powerful as a leader. It's about refining your leadership skill. It's about refining how you communicate with the group of people that you have around you. That's what's essential. That's why you have a team, because you have a high D, you have the get shit done person, you have the cheerleader, you have the intimate personal one-to-one coach, you have the researcher. So build this as the leadership family, build this as the leadership tribe, not on one person's shoulders. Because that's exhaustion, that's expectation, that's living in the should. And we shouldn't should all over ourselves, right? You've heard that before. Good, I'm seeing in the comments, this is hitting home, hitting home, hitting home. So if you're feeling it, just give me a heart feeling. Let that soak in too, like feel that in yourself. Like this is real. Yeah. Feels good, doesn't it? Yeah. Nice. So let's switch gears a little bit, because one of the things that was kind of requested within this is we talk about when things get hard. So I want to bring one of you on as kind of an example. We've got to kind of move sort of quickly with this because I do have a hard stop at 8. But I want to make sure we get to something. So if you have, let's say this, if you have an example that we could connect on, that on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not a big deal, 10 being the salon's future is on the line. If you have kind of like a level 3, 4 conversation that's coming up that you know you need to have, just put a hand up in the air if you'd be willing to talk about that challenge live with me. So if you got kind of like a level 3, level 4. Allie, you're the first person I saw on the screen, so I'm just going to go to you. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hi, Allie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Great. So everyone type, I support you, Allie, into the chat, please. I support you, Allie.
Thanks.
And I want you to feel this, Allie. Read through those comments. Look at how many supporters, how many people that you have on your side. Yes.
That's gonna make me emotional.
It should. That
You told
touches
them
the
to
heart.
say that, and I feel emotional.
So just curious, where did you find yourself as we talked through this?
Kind of all over the board. I had a little bit of a difficult time with it, but I think that naturally I like grew up as an I, like my parents would say that I was an I, and adaptive, I think I'm more of a D. And that's the role that I play in the salon is it has to be that black or white person because our owner is an I. So she is like so feelings.
Yes.
So as I've been manager, I have grown more into being like, no, where's the answer?
Cool. Yeah, how many of you have had that experience where you've kind of become the fill in the gap for others, whether it's in your family or within your community, within your salon? Yeah, definitely. And this happens a lot within relationships. And when I say relationships, that's intimate relationships, that's community relationships, but yeah, so important there. Okay, so give us just a brief, not the whole story, just give us a brief synopsis of what the conversation is that needs to be had.
So we're in Kansas, and that I think plays a large part into this because we are not as hard hit with coronavirus as everyone else is, as far as number of cases and things like that. So we have been shut down, but we are very divided in the mask range, whereas most people in Kansas, I would say like most people in Kansas are not wearing masks, but it is still mandated and it is still something we're supposed to be doing. And we've been having difficulty with a stylist who is so against it, like so against it. And she was pregnant right when we got back from being shut down. She was pretty far pregnant. She got a doctor's note saying that she didn't have to wear a mask because of the migraines that she got. So she had this excuse. Well, then she had the baby and has now come back and still expects to not be able to wear a mask. And it's a problem.
Gotcha. And what has happened so far in the conversations you've had?
So my boss spoke with her first, and she also is 8 weeks postpartum. So she's very emotional and like, I can't deal with this, and walked out kind of thing. So a couple days later, I brought the conversation to her because she is more of a peer to me. And I had let her say all the things that she needed to say. And I tried to be more of a listener to her, to let her express her emotions, and then brought it back to, okay, but here's the rule. And if this rule isn't followed by you, then we're going to have to start, like, we're going to have to figure out a way to make this happen. And she agreed and went on the same page with us, and then came to work the next day and still wasn't wearing a mask. And so my boss had to have another conversation with her, and it was the same, very emotional, walked out of the room, I'll just move all my clients type of thing.
So at this point, it's quite disruptive to the salon. It's something that there is a hard, fast rule. It's been completely clear, right? Okay, great. So this is perfect. This is a great one. So we're going to take you through a thing called the confrontation model. We're going to do it pretty quick. So first, just really clearly name the issue.
Sadie's not wearing a mask.
Okay, so within that statement, you've already put her on the defensive.
Yeah.
Right? Because you just told her what she's not doing. Okay. So how can we change how we state the issue to be about the salon and about the expectations of the salon?
So it's making it difficult on the other stylists who get questioned by their guests why they have to wear a mask if she isn't.
Okay, so
Is that better?
that's a good example. So the issue is that the salon as a community has made a decision that we all need to uphold.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So instead of me, I'm sorry, what was her name one more time? Was it Sadie?
Sadie, yeah.
Okay. So instead of me coming in and saying, Sadie, we need to talk about the fact that you're not wearing a mask. Everybody feel that for a second. Sadie, I need to talk to you because you're not wearing a mask. Everybody feel that for a second. Ugh.
It's an attack.
Okay, I'm ready to fight. Here, let's do this, you know? Instead, I come to her and I say, hey, Sadie, I'd love to have a conversation with you because we as a community have made a agreement with each other that we're going to wear masks within the salon. A little different, yes?
Yeah.
She's still going to go in the defense because she's already there, but it's less of a fight response. Then you can say, an example is sometimes when you don't wear a mask, what we feel is we have to explain ourselves to the rest of our style or to the rest of our clients on why we're wearing masks, but you're not. So instead, again, of me telling her, by you not wearing a mask, you're creating an issue, we're telling her about the experience of the rest of the salon. Okay. Not necessarily blaming her for the experience. We're just explaining, here's the experience of the rest of the people here. Here's my personal experience. That's what's really, really incredibly important when we have these kind of conversations.
Well, because that's the real problem. The real problem does not matter if she's wearing a mask or not. The real problem is that the rest of the team is pissed that we made this rule and you don't think you follow it.
You just said it all. You just said it all. Guys, that was so huge. Give her like a huge, like, yeah, hands in the air.
Right on.
In our entire world right now, masks are not the issue. That's not the problem. It's not the mask. It's how we are treating each other. It's how we are communicating with each other. That is the problem right there. Thank you for bringing that forward. So that's the focus here, Allie. That's where you go with this. Forget about the damn mask. Is it important? Yeah, of course it is to the safety of our community. But forget about the damn mask. Talk about relationship. So the next thing you're going to express to her is how you feel personally. So how do you feel right now?
Ooh, I feel yucky.
Okay.
I feel annoyed.
And without telling her why she's creating the yuck, tell us why you feel yucky.
I feel like this is causing tension between the team that doesn't need to be there. Like, the decision was already made, and the fact that it's not being upheld is causing just friction. So this is not a common thing for our team. Our team is we're really good friends. So when something like this happens, it's affecting everyone. Okay,
so hold there. So a simple statement to her would be, and I just have to be honest, like, I just feel so yucky about this because there's tension here, and we don't want tension. Nobody wants tension. That doesn't feel good. Again, it didn't tell her she's creating tension. It told her tension is present. That doesn't feel good. It's just telling her this is the experience we are having, okay? Then state why this is important to you, which you just did. So this kind of rolls right into the experience too, is just let her know this is so important because What we want is to have this community feel whole and connected. Now, here's the really important part, Allie. What part do you have to play in the conversation? You personally.
What do you mean? The listener?
No, you just, so you're having a conversation with Sadie. What role do you play in the challenge that you're working through?
So I'm the more of the one that's trying to push blame. It sounds bad, but like I'm definitely so aggressive being a D that I need to work on the way that I'm laying out the situation so that she sees the emotional side of it and not just the black and white, you're supposed to be wearing a mask side.
Yeah. Beautiful. And you had that realization just as we were talking there, right? That
Yep.
this
Just
isn't
now.
about the mask. And so you could share that with her. Like, I had a big realization that I've probably been a little harsh with you about the whole mask thing when it really doesn't have anything to do with the mask. I just want to have a great community.
Yeah.
So it's showing her that you're vulnerable too. Because this is what often happens in these challenging conversations. We feel like we have to go in and change something.
Yeah.
When we go in with the intent of, here's the situation, here's how it feels, this is how I feel, this is how I've contributed to it, it creates an open space for an actual conversation to happen. So now, indicate your wish to her to have a resolution. Just one sentence that says something to the effect that you want to resolve this with her together.
So how can we move forward in this situation so that we can get back to feeling cohesive as a team?
Beautiful.
Do I ask a question? Is that
so? Stay in statement form for right now.
okay? I don't know how to make that a statement.
What's your intent with the conversation?
So I want to be able for us to find a way to move forward to get back to feeling cohesive as a team.
Okay. My intention is,
Okay.
I'm just gonna keep handing it back to you.
So my intention is to find a way for all of us to move forward so that we all feel cohesive as a team. I'm saying the same
Great.
thing over and over.
Perfect. So just add one thing. You want to work with her to find.
Okay. So, okay. Yeah. So my intention is to work with you to find a way to getting back to feeling cohesive as a team.
Beautiful. Because what we're now doing is we're creating a space of co-creation. Nobody likes to be told what to do. How many of you here like to be told what to do? Oh, weird. I didn't see a single hand come up. So what we're working with is our natural human reactions here, Allie. We're keeping her out of that protective mode, because as soon as she gets into protection mode, which she will go into because this is already happening, but I guarantee if you structure the conversation in the way that we've done so far, she's going to come to the next step, which is now you are going to genuinely invite her to share what she sees within the conversation.
What if she doesn't? What if she's like really stands firm in her beliefs on this?
Okay, great. We have more information. A conversation, hear this, Hallie, hear this. If there is already a decision made that she either has to wear a mask or she has to leave, that's not a conversation. And if it's to that point, that's okay, actually. But that's not a conversation. That's you or the owner going to her and saying, I'm sorry, but this decision has been made. You either wear a mask or you have to go. What's your decision?
That makes me want to throw up.
Thank God, because it should
Yeah.
make you throw up. Because that is not helping.
Yeah.
That's not having a conversation. That's why people do this, right? So you, Allie, are taking the courageous route. You are entering into conversation. Conversation is about exploration. It's not about proving a point. Enter into this conversation with the heart of, I'm here to explore this with this person and to have them feel welcome, to have them feel heard, that they have a different opinion of this world, that they have a different opinion of what's happening. Okay? So if you say, you know what, at this point, I want to stop talking. I want to give you space to talk. And I just want to genuinely hear how you feel and even clarify that. Like, I'm kind of not as interested with the details of whether a mask is good or whether a mask is bad. Like I told you, mask is kind of like side material to me. Like, I want to know how you feel about this. And then step back, open up in a super vulnerable way, and just be ready to hear what this human has to say.
Okay.
Yeah, it feels a little crazy, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be good because how can they not, like, with the way that we've set up the structure of the conversation, how can she not have the same opinion as me? Like, if she was in a place where she said, you know what, I don't care that the team is really effed up right now. Like, I don't care that everyone's mad and that I'm causing tension. Like, then we have a whole different problem as to like why you're on our team and what kind of team member you are, you know?
Is Allie dropping bombs here or what?
Nailed it.
Thank you.
Seriously, you just got to the point. Because you are so right. It's not about the damn mask. It's about, is she a part of your family?
Yeah.
Because if she feels that she is a part of your family, if she feels she is a part of your community, that's where things soften. And now there's access for her to say, you know, God, I never really kind of saw it this way. And you know what? Because I love this family, I'm going to do this thing with you. I'm going to put aside my personal preferences because the rest of the community has made an agreement together. And if she comes back with, I don't give a shit, here's your answer.
Yeah.
Now you know without a doubt, this person doesn't work within your community. And it's not about a mask. It's about, do you fit with my community or not? Everyone give her a huge round of applause.
Yeah. Great job.
So stoked for you, Ellie. That was huge.
Thank you. Thank you for talking that through with me, because this has literally happened this week. Like, it's been fresh on our minds.
Yes. Beautiful. Guys, I hate to do this, but I have to run. I'm 8 minutes late for another event, but I wanted to make sure that we got through this with Allie. I just want you to hear one thing. I am so grateful for each and every one of you. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be here with you, because I hope what you felt from me is this is something I have so much passion for. If you want to stay connected with me, you can just go to andrew.carruthers on Instagram. That's the best place to stay connected with me. I have my website up here. It will be live hopefully by the end of the week. So just know if you go there right now, you're going to see an in construction kind of post. But please stay in touch with me if you have more questions on any of this stuff. I am wholly available to you as a resource. And again, I just want to express so much gratitude to each one of you, and also gratitude to my teachers, my mentors, for offering me something that I can offer to you. So
Thank you, Andrew.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Andrew, brother,
Thank you
thank you
so
so much for coming, sharing your wisdom. Guys,
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks,
give a
Andrew.
huge round of applause. Make some noise for Andrew, guys. Unmute yourself. Make some noise for Andrew.